This lesson is going to be on how to construct a frequency distribution. So as you can see, there's three types of frequency distributions: categorical, grouped, and ungrouped. The one that we're going to focus on, though, is simply going to be we're going to work on the grouped frequency distribution. So that's what I'm going to walk you through here. And the reason that we're focusing on the group frequency distribution is because that one is kind of the premise for a lot of other charts. For instance, the histogram, the frequency polygon, the ogive. So it's kind of how to start. It's kind of how to start each one of those. So here's the four main categories for when you construct your grouped frequency distribution. You need to construct class limits, class boundaries, and then you're going to do the tallies, and then you're going to calculate the frequency. So your very first step is to determine the classes. Generally, you have 10 classes. Now, you can have as many as you want. It's pretty much always going to be between 5 and 20 classes, but it all depends on the amount of data. Usually 10 classes works out pretty well, but if you have a smaller amount of data, then usually you want to do a fewer number of categories. So I would say, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. So usually if you stick with 10, it's usually a pretty safe bet. So the first thing that we want to do is calculate the class width. So if we take a look back here, each one of these classes are going to be intervals. For instance, 100 to 110, then 111 to 120. So we need to calculate the interval between those two numbers. So to calculate that interval between the two numbers, that's called class width. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the range, and then we're going to divide by how many classes we want. So here, divide the range by the number of classes. So if we take high minus low, the highest number in our set of data, going back to our set of data, here's our set of data. The highest number was 134, the lowest number was 100. So we take 134 minus 100 and we get 34. And then we divide by however many classes we're going to do. In this case, we're going to do 7 classes. So we take 34 divided by 7. When you take 34 and divide by 7, it comes out to a decimal. Always, to get the class width, always round that number up. So whatever it comes out to, always take that number and round it up. If it's a decimal, always round that number up. So in this case, it rounds up to 5, so our class width is equal to 5. Now to construct each one of these classes. Normally you start with the lowest number, so whatever the lowest data value is, that's pretty much what you always start with. So in this case, the lowest data value was 100, so we start with that. Now whatever the class width was, take that number and subtract 1. And that's what you're going to add to get each one of these classes. And the reason for that is because if I take a look at actually counting out the numbers, the number 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, that's equal to 5. It has a class width of 5. 105, 6, 7, 8, 9, that has a class width of 5. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, it has a class width of 5. Okay? Because these categories are inclusive, which means it includes the number 100 and includes the number 104, because it's inclusive, that means that you're going to have to actually, oh, come on now. There we go. You're going to have to add the class width minus 1. Okay? And then you just continue doing that until you get to 134. Now you can see that in order to come up with the next class, all you do is add 1. So take 104, add 1 to it, and you get 105. Now take 105 and add 4, and you get 109. Add 1 to it, and you get 110. Add 4, you get 114. Add 1, you get 115. Add 4, you get 119, and so on until you reach your last interval. So this is my 7th interval, my 7th class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. And if you follow those steps, your last class should contain your highest data value. Keep in mind this highest number, this 134, does not have to be the highest data point. Okay? Just keep making your classes until every single class, until you can put all of your data into one of these classes. All right, so that's our class, the class limits. Now we need to go through and construct our class boundaries. And our class boundaries are those rounding rules that we talked about in chapter 1. So what will round into this? So to come up with these class boundaries, all we have to do is add a 0 and then subtract 5 and add 5. So the number 100, I add a 0 to it, 100.0, and then I'm going to subtract 0.5, and that gives me 99.5. And then I'm going to take 104.0, and then I'm going to add 0.5, and that gives me 104.5. And then you simply start with 104.5 for your next class boundary, and then you go to 109.0 plus 0.5 gives me 109.5. And you just continue going until you have constructed all of your classes, all of your class boundaries. Okay? After the class boundaries are the tallies. The easiest way to do the tallies is to take all of your data, take all this data here, enter it into a calculator or a list of some sort or a spreadsheet of some sort. A Google Doc, if you go into Google Docs, they have some really nice spreadsheets that you can work with, where all you have to do is enter your numbers, and then it will go through and organize all your numbers for you. So once you get into your docs, just create and then do a spreadsheet. So we can create, and you can do a spreadsheet. Enter all your values into the first column here. So go through and enter every single number into this first column, and then highlight the first column. And then, I wonder if I need to enter some numbers first. No. Then just go to data, and then you can sort your sort sheet by column A to Z, whatever. Let me enter some numbers first. There. And I'm going to highlight this column. There we go. We can just click on that little arrow and do sort. So I do sort A to Z, and that will put your numbers in order, in ascending order. Okay. It works really handy for organizing data, because now that you have all your data organized, it's going to make it that much easier to do your tallies. Because now just take a look at your numbers and then just go through your numbers and see how many pieces of data are in this first one. And you can see that there's two pieces of data. And then go through it and see how many are in the next one. So 1, 2, 3, I should actually do slashes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, let's get rid of that last one. 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. So there's 8 pieces of data in the next one, and so on and so on and so on. All right, and then your frequency. Frequency is just simply the number of pieces of data. So all you have to do is just count them up, and that's equivalent to the frequency. So frequency just tells you how many. So your last step here, step 4, determine the frequencies. And this here is your, this is a completed frequency distribution.